Welcome to today's session on Seedkit and how you can use theory of change through the platform. I'd like to acknowledge that wherever we are, is, always will be Aboriginal land. Pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Pay my respects to the relationship between people and to country itself. And welcome all of you. For those of you who I don't know, my name's Jo Barraquette, and among other hats, I'm the director of Seedkit. And it's really terrific to see some new faces and some people we know well joining today's session. I'd like to just really quickly acknowledge, for those of you who've not been involved before, that Seedkit is a co-production. It's a platform that's been co-designed with more than 30 social enterprises in Victoria. It was generously funded, the build of it was generously funded by the Victoria government, and Seedkit's ongoing progress is currently being supported by the University of Melbourne's Proof of Concept Fund and a generous contribution from the Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation. With no further ado, though, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Joanne Tien-Khoo, who's going to give you a bit of an overview of what we're doing today, and then we'll get started. Over to you, Joanne.
Thanks, Jo. So just a quick recap of what we have covered in the first session. For those of you who were there or missed it out, and it has been recorded, and then we will share the recording on our website. So in the first session, we presented a short video to demonstrate an end-to-end experience with Seedkit, and we received many questions and had some good discussion between our team and participants. So today we would like to first introduce the concept and the practice of developing a theory of change to those who are new to this term and approach. And we have also prepared a case study which we will apply and show you how Seedkit can support users to operationalize a theory of change. As Jo mentioned, it will be lovely to see your faces if it's possible. Please keep your camera on. And of course, feel free to turn it off if you'd prefer or for bandwidth reasons. If you need technical assistance, please reach out to your team. We're here to help. We do have a question-answer session at the end of the presentation, but please do put your questions to our team in the chat. We'll do our best to answer it if we can along the way, or we'll answer them at the end. I think that's all, but before we start, I'd like to do a quick poll about your experience with theory of change. I'll just quickly put it out. You should be able to see that on the screen now. Can everybody see it? It'd be terrific if you can please put in your answer. It's totally... Thank you. It's totally anonymous. We'll give a minute for this so everyone has time to respond, and then we'll be sharing the results to all. I can see the
I think everyone's in.
Yeah, the results, the results are coming in. I'll probably just stop now. That's great. And share results. Can you see the results?
Thumbs up if you can see it in the chat. Yep.
Yeah, great.
Terrific.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. Over to you, Jo.
Thanks, Joanne. So as we can see, we've got a mix of levels of experience with theory of change, and the mix is trending towards those with some or lots of experience. But for those of you who are new, fear not. That's one of the things about what we do, and what hopefully all of you would like to do, is that we're a community of learning as much as anything else. So I would invite those of you who are experts or have quite a degree of experience to share that expertise and experience with others through the chat function while we're running through just a very, very brief overview of theory of change. We do best when we learn from each other. And also for those of you who are new, and indeed all of you, there's no such thing as a silly question. If you've got a question, then at least 3 other people in the group want to know the answer to it. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat as well. When we get to the Q&A session later, we'll also, provide an opportunity for people to actually speak with their microphones. But while we're going through these pieces, please, use the chat function so that we can make sure that we're addressing questions as they come up. So we're just going to do, as I said, the lightning fast version of what is theory of change and how you might think about it. And just reiterating, colleagues who know a lot about this, please add your own reflections as well as my comments, because I'm certainly not the beginning, middle and the end of theory of change. But in a nutshell, the best way I can describe theory of change work is that it's a way of visualizing and communicating what we want to achieve and how we think we're getting there. It is really, I guess, the articulation and synthesis of what it is that we're doing. And that may relate to your whole social enterprise. It could relate to a program. It may relate to a particular operational activity of an organisation. And indeed, theories of change also relate to cross-sectoral collaborations and cross-organisational collaborations. So the sort of level at which you're applying a theory of change can differ. And you can have multiple theories of change in your organisational context, depending on how you use it. If you want to go to the next slide, Joanne, that'd be great. So conscious that some of you will be on small screens and won't be able to see all the detail in this complicated image, but it's really just a holding slide for a chat. To note that the Seedkit platform is, as I said before, first and foremost a learning platform. So there's a series of resources available through the platform, and this is one of them. And I think Claire might put the link to this particular page in. Thanks for doing that, Claire. Really, I guess this is just one visualization of theory of change. There's a huge amount of information on the internet about theory of change. And in my view, while there's a great deal to be commended from it, it can also render confusion and also can, in some cases, be sort of over scientized, if that's a word, and that can put people off. So I'd encourage you to look for the level of information and the models and diagrams that really speak to you and your level of experience and your organisation's needs. But in effect, when you're building a theory of change, what you're trying to do is show the pathways between the inputs, so what we're putting in, what resources we're introducing to whatever the initiative is, the activities and the outputs, so the things that we do. And that takes us to the outcomes, which is the shorter term effects of the things that we do. And then ultimately in this slide, the impacts, which is the longer term and aggregate effects of those outcomes. So you see, it's basically a causal logic, if you like, about what we do, what we put in, what we do, what results, and then what the long-term impact of that is. One tip, though, when you're building a theory of change is you always start by working backwards. So it's very important when you're developing a theory of change to actually start with the impact that you want to have in the world and move backwards from that. And hopefully, if there are colleagues who do a lot of this work, you might want to provide your own reflections in the chat about your experience of what's the best way to do it. But beyond the actual building of a theory of change, I guess just to be clear on why and how it's useful, in my experience, developing a theory of change together is an amazing, or can have an amazing effect on getting on us all getting on the same page. It's been my experience doing both a fair bit of facilitation of other organisations developing their theories of change over many years now, that you could be the tightest team in the world, and still actually not be on the same page about what it is you're doing and what effects that you intend it to have. So it's really what in academic language we call a boundary object. Like, becomes the thing around which you have a conversation about what it is that we're doing and what effect we think it's having in the world. Another good function of theory of change is that can provide a process by which you engage a range of stakeholders or people. I'm not really into the language of stakeholders, people and organisations that matter in terms of the work that you're doing. And that's super important. You know, I mean, more and more we talk about the importance of lived expertise and co-production, co-design, and a lot of that language gets thrown around in fairly loose ways. But using theory of change as a process can assist you to actually engage with, whether it's your customers, whether it's the people or communities that you serve, whether it's your funders, whether it's other organisations in your field with or your geography with whom you wish to collaborate. Using a theory of change can help you to actually get a feel for what stakeholders' experiences are and what their needs are with regard to the work that you do. And it, in my experience, it can really change the game. If you do a workshop, for example, to develop a theory of change, it really changes the game who's in the room. So I've seen examples where only a staff team is in the room and the people that the work is meant to serve are not, and the members of the board are not. And I've seen workshops run where the board only is in the room, and I won't go through this. You know, you get where I'm going. I'm not going to go through every list, but it is really powerful what happens when you get diverse experience and diverse roles in the room or in the process in whatever way suits you best to work out your theory of change. And yes, Bob, this is being recorded. Sorry, we should have said that at the beginning. As a process, it can be quite helpful. I've seen social enterprises actually change their theory of change as a result of bringing the people that they seek to serve into their theory of change workshops, and those people being able to provide insight that board members, for example, have just had no idea about, and really actually change the focus and the pathways of the theory of change. Just briefly, though, I guess we want to also talk about some of the limitations. If you've got other ideas about, you know, what from your experience are benefits of doing this kind of work, then I'd love to see you add those to the chat. But I also just want to acknowledge limitations. Theory of change has its origins in the evaluation of social programs and social sector organisations from the 1960s in the United States. And it's quite linear in its understanding. Although that said, I've seen theories of change, and some of you probably produced theories of change that are more like plates of spaghetti than a linear causal process. But that said, it is often, it's as a model, it's more linear than often social enterprise operations, activities and impacts are. And it can also be constraining when you're innovating. So if we think about the context for innovation, the best way to describe that is there's a lot of unknown unknowns, and theory of change tends to encourage us towards the kind of development work and also the kind of evaluation work that presumes a fair degree of certainty about our operating environment. And sometimes that's really not the case, depending on what the purpose of your social enterprise is. So that can be a limitation. In that context, in terms of evaluation methods, more developmental evaluation methods are better or more useful. And that doesn't mean you don't use theory of change. It just means that the theory of change becomes much more live and much more iterative, with fairly short cycles of reflection on, oh, you know, are we doing what we thought we were doing? Is it having the effects that we thought it was going to have, or are we actually seeing something that we didn't anticipate? So that's just, I guess, a bit of an overview of theory of change and what its purpose is. It also then becomes quite often the underpinning framework against which an evaluation plan is created. So whether you're doing internal monitoring or external evaluation or a combination thereof, often an evaluation plan will then set out the causal chain that's represented in the theory of change between various processes, outcomes and impacts, and look for, well, what are the sources of evidence that we have or that we need to collect in order to develop up the evaluation of this work to see whether our theory of change holds or whether it needs to be modified, and more importantly, to see whether we're actually achieving what we think we're achieving in the ways that we think that we're achieving them. And I think it's really important to stress that this isn't actually about being right or wrong about your theory of change. It's actually about that capacity for adaptation and for thinking differently and working out, like you may see unanticipated positive or negative consequences from your work, and that can actually be fed back in. So if the theory of change process remains live rather than a document that you do to, satisfy a funder or satisfy a board, it's actually a living document. It can actually be a really great management tool for your organisation. So that's probably enough rattling on about theory of change in a general sense. And for those of you who are freaking out going, oh, I just want to use Seedkit to knock in some numbers, that's fine. We're not sharing this with you to suggest that everyone who uses Seedkit needs to have a fully developed theory of change. It's just, this is the particular information session where we wanted to show you how Seedkit can step you through your theory of change once you have one. So I guess the other thing I wanted to say about that before I hand back over to Joanne for the live demo is that Seedkit at the moment has resources like the one that's on screen now that help you to think about developing your theory of change, but it doesn't provide an automated option for, it's not an automated guide to how to build a theory of change. There's some learning resources there, but the use of the indicators and the reporting functions, which Joanne's about to go through, assumes that you've already developed this. So if Joanne, the starting assumption for what Joanne's going to show you is that you've got some kind of theory of change. It may be very simple or highly complex. And just before I hand to Joanne, one other thing, we're using a case example, which we started for our workshop last week, for those of you who attended last time, which was the social florist. I just want to flag those of us involved in Seedkit, both the researchers and the practitioners, are highly aware of the diversity and complexity of the social enterprise sector. And we're also very respectful of the complexity and levels of sophistication of organisations. So we don't want you to assume that because we're using a very simple case study that we actually think that this is a universal reflection of social enterprise. It's just that when we use a very simple case example, that means that the demo can be done quickly in your lunch break. But you can use Seedkit at a much greater level of sophistication than this particular case. Over to you, Joanne.
Thank you, Jo. So this is a simple case study we prepared, continuing our story with Social Florist, which is a cotton-based social enterprise. We would like to give you, as Jo mentioned, some context and simplified version of theory change, and then we'll show you how this can be applied and to Seedkit, and how Seedkit can support organizations or users like the one in our case study to operationalize their theory of change. So the case study presents a florist shop that creates beautiful, stylish flowers for customers, individuals, corporates across Melbourne, but they also have a social mission. The team here delivers free training workshops and social activities, utilizing the facilities and the venue for local community members. So such as flower talk, create opportunities for local members to meet up and chat anything about flowers, BCB information sessions to provide tips, how-tos, how to care for your flowers, gardens, and more structured training workshops to teach florist skills. And the team recently developed a theory of change with the goal to create positive social collections among local community members. So we applied the theory of change canvas that we showed you earlier, but in a simplified version here. So we can see what we have this theory of change tells us is if the team here at Social Florist, if we can create a safe, interactive environment at social activities, build trust with the members through working together. So thinking about resources, inputs, and interventions in this building block by coordinating different activities. So this is the activities here, and hopefully we will result in changes we would like to see in short term, increased participation across all activities, satisfaction with the sessions provided, and we would like to see increased skills, in particular forestry skills participants have gained through those workshops. And ultimately, we would like to see what we do here could contribute to building positive social connections among community members, increased confidence in the community, and an increased sense of belonging in the community. So this is the theory of change the team at Social Florist has developed. And this is the one that we will take you through to Seedkit. And usually a starting point from there is when we have the theory of change at hand, it's already developed. It could inform or support us to identify next what happens at each stage of our work. So this is the part what we Joe mentioned earlier, that how theory of change can help tell us what and how. So the measurement, the concept of measurement comes to inform us what happens at each stage. So I put some example here, so to give people some thinking and ideas. So for example, when we want to see increased participation across activities, what are the indicators we would like to collect and report or to measure that? So number of sessions, number of different activities, sessions delivered, number of participants, for example, and what else we would like to capture there to be able to measure increased participation, maybe number of volunteers, for example. And then the measurement will also help us start thinking the possible data sources and data collection methods. So we have indicators, and then we map out, how we would like to collect the data. So I think it could get a bit tricky and challenging when you start thinking about those measurements, possible indicators, especially when we start moving from the tangible results, the things we can straight away see and collect data for, like number of sessions, participants, to those that less visible, less upfront, especially changes in people's perception, awareness, and knowledge. So this is where Seedkit could help to find indicators. So I'll stop sharing my screen here and take you to the site. All right, so so now we're on the live site of Seedkit. You can see my home page. This is where you can see and find everything at one page. So we can go straight to the indicators card. Now, just like to, I've already created a reporting unit for social florist, which we will select here, and that will help us to enter the library. So here is the Seedkit indicators library. On this page, we can see a list of domains. So domains are the thematic areas social enterprises or programs or interventions could be working on. The architect of the library, which is the structure of the domains, outcome areas and indicators are informed by research and evaluations collaborated with social enterprises. As you may see from this page, we can choose the most relevant domain, in our case, to the social florist team according to their theory of change. So community connections and place-based development. Let's go in there. And next you see a list of outcome areas. So in Seedkit, we use an outcome area to organize a specific impact pathway, grouping relevant inputs, outputs, and outcome indicators. This is a key feature in Seedkit that can be aligned with your theory of change. And we'll demonstrate this in more details in following steps. So first we can have a look here and see which is the first outcome area or impact pathway that we like to work with. Participants have positive social connections, relationships. Again, this should be informed, suggested by your theory of change. And it's all right if it's okay if you can't find a specific outcome area or impact pathway in the exact wording as your theory of change. We suggest you come and find a relevant topic, go have a look. And then if you would like, you can always modify and change how you like to word or call out that particular outcome area. So as you may see here, this we have 3 tabs here: inputs, outputs, outcomes. So this is the structure where I mentioned earlier that demonstrates, how the indicators can be organized under a particular outcome area or impact pathway. And it's all right if you forget or not clear or how these terms are defined. You can always hover over to the information bubble, which will give you the definition we used in Seedkit. So inputs are specific resources the program or your organization uses to address the overall aim. And then we can move to outputs. These are the tangible things that done. Could be number of participants, number of activities, etc. And similarly, once you move to the outcomes tab, you can see the definition there as well. So the library do have suggested what we call default indicators for outputs and outcomes. I think inputs, for most of the outcome areas, we don't have suggested inputs because one key reason is inputs. The resource usually quite specific, organization or intervention specific. So that is where you can put in your custom context specific indicator. In this case, we can see 2 default indicators here for participants have positive social connection relationships. One is number of events and number of participants. And in this case, we should customize it to make sure that it can align with our theory of change at Social Florist. So for example, I can modify this as, right, so thinking about the activities, the sessions we're delivering here. So the number of flower talks. And
love a flower talk.
Data entry interval is the frequency you would like to collect your data, report your data against. So we can set as monthly here. And probably we also wanted to capture the number of BZB. Oh, sorry, great. We just use the form here straight away. So the number of BZB sessions. So monthly, save. So you can see we've created a specific indicator, output indicator that is suggested by our theory of change. What are the other measures, indicators we would like to have here? Number of participants, community participants, or community members. Yeah. Activities. Again, we can also say that's monthly. Well, this is just example. In reality, we probably want to have this indicator in a more specific way, such as the number of community members attended Flower Talk, or members attended BZB, etc. Yes, so we can move to the outcomes indicator tab. Outcomes are short to medium term effects that can be positive or negative. And here we have some suggested outcome indicators here to measure people who feel supported and connected as a short-term immediate outcome from participating in our activities. So we can remove the indicators that you think not relevant to your theory of change, or again, edit the indicator to suit your context. So and of course, we can create customer indicator that we would like to have, or select from the list here. So these are the indicators in the library in this domain, but not categorized in this particular outcome area. So next we can save and complete, and then you'll give a view of the indicators selected to your impact pathway. So you can see as from here, Seedkit organizes and groups indicators according to the impact pathway, and then also you can add multiple pathways as informed by your theory of change here. And I just wanted to quickly mention that it is possible and a particular indicator appear across multiple impact pathways or outcome areas, which we know in reality this speaks to the operational context, the dynamic context, how change comes about from different aspect or different possible ways that change will come about. So it's not just one single linear way from only one particular pathway we'll see it. So in this case, you can select, you can still be able to see the same or select the same indicator under different pathways, but when you come to data entry, you just need to enter the same data once, and then it will be automatically captured across relevant impact pathways if they have been selected. So just being aware of the time, I'll quickly show you how it might look like when it comes to data management. So I've created some data, popped in some existing data here with similar indicators, so to give you an idea. So on the data management, this is the page. You will see the indicators you have selected as informed by your theory of change. And this is where you can put in the data either manually or we have an option for you to specify the project, the pathway, and then it will create automated spreadsheet for you to download, put in the data, and re-upload it to the platform, so can be done automatically. And lastly, I also created some sample report on our dashboard to show you what we have just created or indicators we selected with some data in. So again, here, for example, different number of activities, participants, and people who feel socially connected. So you can create your charts, graphs, and even tables. And then we can export it in a PDF and share with your team across. And yeah, that's the whole live demo part.
Thanks, Joanne. And you've all been quietly listening to us for a long time, which is slightly bad practice in webinars. We weren't sure quite how else to do it, but really happy to answer any questions you've got either about what we've shown you today or about Seedkit more generally. We've got the team here, Joanne, Warren, our developer, and I am here. And we've got 7 or so minutes before we're due to let you have the rest of your lives back. So feel free, if you've got a question, stick it in the chat, or you can put your hand up, although I can't see hands up very well, so I might need guidance from you, Claire, if people are doing that. And noticing, Bob, you did put a message in there. We're not really able to provide advice on individual theories of change. We're, to be honest, operating on a fairly skeleton crew in Seedkit at the moment. That may change in the near future, but by all means, given that you've shared your theory of change there with others in the chat, anyone who wants to weigh in and give Bob some feedback, please feel free. I can see there's a couple of hands up. Joanne, can you see who it is? I can't see who it is. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a tech issue.
Yes, I can. Yeah. Right, I'll just yeah, I can see here, Xuan, you put your hand up first. I'll just unmute you. Yep.
I'm actually collecting data on impact measurement this 2-3 weeks. So question is that does Seedkit enable survey data collection?
No, not that's not its function. Its function is when you've collected your data, it provides the means by which you process and hold that data over time and produce longitudinal insights from it. There was a previous tool created by the Centre for Social Impact at the University of New South Wales called Amplify, which provided the kind of survey work that you were suggesting, but that's closed down for reasons that are it's not my wasn't my tool, so I can't really talk to it too much, but just to note that there were some challenges, as I understand it, about both user uptake and some copyright issues with that platform. So that's not what Seedkit does.
So let's say I collected the data from the survey and then I can put that through Seedkit.
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
Downloading a template and then use that as a presentation and analysis tool.
Yeah, you effectively create your own template by selecting the relevant indicators or creating your own indicators against which you map your survey data, and then it can help you to produce that those outputs. I'm conscious there's a question from Alison. We haven't got it long, so we're just going to take these pretty quickly. So question from Alison in the chat. Where we'd be able to access the first user information session. Do you know where that is on the platform, Joanne? I don't know. I know it's there, but I don't know where.
Yes, the plan is once this session is over, and then we'll prepare both recordings at the same time to add captions, and then we'll upload it to our site under resource. And we'll also email the both links to all our participants, so you will receive that in your email as well.
Thanks. And Bob, you had a question. You had your hand up. Is it the same question that's in the chat, or is it a different one? Feel free to turn your mic on.
Oh, it's the same question that's in the chat.
Yes, so my understanding of SEA data is that that's a data visualization platform and co-produced data visualization platform, which is something of a different function to Seedkit. Seedkit is more focused on allowing organisations or prescribed collaborations to manage and report on their own data. Rather than, as I understand what SEA data does, and I'm not going to purport to know a great deal about it, but is a platform that helps you to, with existing data sets, to layer them over each other so that you can collectively make sense of particular sources of information. Hannah's got a question. Is the data kept confidential or is it shared? So any user of Seedkit owns its own data, and it is confidential to you in its identifiable form. The terms of use of Seedkit are that at the back end, the research team has permission to aggregate your information in an anonymous fashion. And the reason for that is it's one of the purposes for why we set Seedkit up, which is that if enough of you use it, we will be able to create aggregated insights about the sector to share back to you and also to governments and philanthropy and all those people who are interested in it. And as the person who's done most of the original survey work of social enterprises in this country, I'm really hoping that will work, because then I'll never have to survey you again. You'll just be doing something that's useful to you. And at the back end, we'll create anonymous insights from that information. I'm not sure if I've missed a question because I was rattling on. So a question from Rochelle, is it only for social enterprise models? It can be used as, anyone can use Seedkit. You can get in the front door, provided you can register, anyone can use it. So really not-for-profits and social purpose programs can use Seedkit. At the back end, just to my earlier point, we will clean the data so that we make sure that any insights that we generate are actually about social enterprises, not just about all users of Seedkit. Alison's saying, is there any pricing? No, Alison, this is completely free to you. This has been created by researchers funded by the Victoria government as a not-for-profit activity that is completely in the public interest. One day we might need to work out how to generate a bit of revenue to support Seedkit's ongoing operations, but our absolute commitment to you is that it doesn't cost you anything to use. If we need to generate revenue streams, we'll think about how we might get that upstream from what we might call upstream customers. No offence to anyone from government who's on the call. We're glad you like it, Rochelle. It's been co-designed by 35 social enterprises. It's minimum lovable product at the moment. There is so much more that we could do with it. And a lot of people are interested in it, both locally and internationally. There's a lot of great ideas coming from social enterprises, from governments, from philanthropy, from impact investors about all the amazing things that could be done with it. And right now we just want to keep it alive, and the best way for us to do that is for you to use it. If you use it, we demonstrate proof of concept, and then we get the opportunity to build out some of the extra possibilities. I'm conscious of time, and we probably need to draw it to a close, but I think there was another question I missed from Chris. Was there one about reporting? Are you partnering with social enterprise chapters? Because it was created in Victoria, Bob, and funded by the Victoria government, the steering group comprised organisations from the social enterprise ecosystem that operate in Victoria. So that included Senvic, Social Traders and others. But we're absolutely, Social Enterprise Australia was part of that steering group, and we don't have a formal partnership, but we're absolutely collectively committed to making sure that the work is aligned with the work that the peaks and others are doing in the ecosystem. Seedkit's not meant to compete. It's a complementary activity which has been produced by those of us who've been doing the research in social enterprise for the last 30 years in Australia. Is it just for Australian organisations? No, Rochelle, watch this space. We're already working with some Irish colleagues about opening it up for them. I think we're going to have to call it to a close because we've run over time, but thanks for your interest, and apologies if we've missed any questions. Feel free to pop them through to us via the info email on the Seedkit website. And we look forward to you using it. We look forward to hearing from you, noting we are on a bit of a skeleton crew at the moment, but we're hopeful that that's a temporary situation while we arrange some further investment for Seedkit. So please get using it. Tell us what you think. We want to make it awesome, and that's only going to happen when we co-design and have the crowd tell us what's needed. So please do that. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and have a good rest of your day.